Welcome to Unity Now, the podcast where we discuss unity in the face of division. Inspired by the Unity 2020 plan, we strive to unite Americans by highlighting the middle ground between the two dominant parties and promoting the individual over groups. Each episode, we will bring you exciting, well-informed guests and host nuanced conversations about politically charged subjects. Our goal is to bring an end to the ideological war threatening the collective well-being of this great country.
Welcome back to the Unity Now podcast today, everybody. I'm really excited for our guest. We have the one and only Angela McArdle, chair of the National Libertarian Party. Hi, Angela. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited because I always try to look up our guests, no matter if I know about them or not. But now I believe you're a part of the Avengers of USA politics for 2024, at least.
That is correct. That is correct.
Yeah, I think you're maybe the Nick Fury of 2024. What do you think?
I'll take it. I was trying to think about all the different the different female Avengers, and I wasn't really vibing with any of them. So I'll take Nick Fury.
Yeah, I think Nick Fury is the best one right now, at least, because you seem to be bringing so much together. I mean, let me go through it real quick just so we have it all together. And I try to mention not only the date of recordings now, but the time as well, because it could change before we're done, right? So
Yeah.
We're recording August 30th, 2024. It's about 11 a.m. Eastern. And since just the end of June, we've had the Trump-Biden debate. We've had the Trump assassination attempt. We had the RNC. We've had Biden drop out. We've had Kamala becomes the quote-unquote nominee. We've had the DNC ending. And then finally last night, Kamala gives her first kind of interview, right? So leading up to this year, I mean, did you really think it would be this wild?
I didn't think it would be this type of wild, but I did anticipate it would be pretty crazy.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it was Trump's revenge year, I wasn't sure if we would have a really strong showing as the Libertarian Party. So I've been working on issue coalitions since 2022, kind of anticipating that we were going to have a black swan event. And, how would we survive it as an organization? But, even more so than that, like, how do we advance liberty and individual rights and the things I care about while everything is kind of exploding and the political sands are shifting beneath our feet?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of led me to this pragmatism that I've seen you do this year. You seem to subscribe to the idea of pragmatism when it comes to advancing and promoting the Libertarian Party, advancing liberty and creating allies. So not only did you get RFK Jr. to come to the Libertarian Convention, but also Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, has that ever happened where the GOP nominee has came to the Libertarian Convention?
Never before. I think maybe they had a gubernatorial GOP candidate come and speak, but I don't think they've had presidential candidates from independent or, any other political party come and speak. We tried to get Jill Stein too, but she was really busy petitioning in New York. Same with Cornel West. He was over in California.
But none of those are part of your party. Why would you do that?
Well, for 50 plus years, the Libertarian Party's been trying to get on the national debate stage, right? And so I thought, well, why don't I just bring the debate stage to us? Especially in a year where it looks like mainstream, like corporate sponsored debates, it's going away. No one cares anymore. Everything's going in the direction of podcasts, interviews. The Commission on Debates is just becoming more and more irrelevant. And so I said, we got to get ahead of the curve on this. And, we want to have a seat at the table. We're not going to win the election, but we may decide it. So why don't we really lean into the kingmaker role and tell people to come and court our votes and, see how it goes.
Yeah, and like I've seen you say on repeat, independents like myself are the biggest percent of the nation.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, you will manage the what's going on this year, definitely. Like I've seen you, like, how do you maintain your principles while pushing these boundaries that you make libertarians uncomfortable with?
Sure.
Like I saw
Well,
you say this to Michael Malice. You eat shit and move forward, move things forward.
that
Like
is.
you just said it super serious. Like it is what it is.
It is exactly what I do. My job as chair is to eat shit and move things forward.
Yeah.
And this year, we did not have a strong showing. Like we have a very polarizing presidential candidate. As chair of the national party, my job is to work with him anyway. But a lot of people in the party are not supporting him. There's a lot of backlash. And so I'm trying to be creative in my approach there, make sure he gets support from the national party, but also make sure we don't have a bunch of people leave, and try to advance the goals of liberty. How do I do it without compromising my principles? Is just like we always have to advance libertarianism, individual rights, economic freedom, personal liberty, peaceful foreign policy. We always have to be advancing that agenda. And I want to do it radically. So I like to take a pragmatic approach by working with other people, doing issue coalitions, but I don't want to water any of it down. Donald Trump, for example, promised he would abolish the Department of Education and he would free Ross Ulbricht. And those aren't pragmatic, slow approaches. They're sort of siloed, it's just like one or two areas, but it's a very radical change. And that's the kind of stuff I want to champion.
Yeah, and you've actually talked to the man. You might be the first one I've ever talked to that's talked to the man. Like, do you believe him when he says things like that? Like, do you really, really believe him?
I do. I think it's probably campaigning to become the next president. You make a lot of promises, and I think that especially for first-time presidential candidates, there's probably a lot of naivety with what they can actually accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
I think having the experience he's already had, these are commitments he can keep. Peaceful foreign policy, there's a lot of talk about that. It hasn't necessarily materialized into like a 5-point plan. That one might be trickier, so I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket. But, we've had repeated talks about the Department of Education and Ross Ulbricht, and I feel confident that those are like bite-sized things that he can give to us. It's really going to be up to us to work on the Department of Education, work on cabinet picks, make sure we get someone who can survive Senate confirmation, and support that individual as they navigate the bureaucratic hellmouth that is that department.
Yeah, I wonder if you're going to be the Libertarian cabinet member. I've been wondering that now.
I don't think so. I think we're going to put up someone who I feel more confident will survive Senate confirmation, someone who's maybe like a retired judge or an active judge, card carrying, capital L, registered libertarian.
Yeah.
But maybe someone who's not been in like the social media sphere so much, someone who's a little less controversial.
Yeah, you probably don't want to tell them that your job is to eat shit. Some of them might like that.
I mean, I'll be honest and forthright. I feel like that job is more about flushing it, not eating it.
That's true. Well, so we're here then to, again, into the end of September. This is what we're here to talk about, right? Which is Rescue the Republic.
Yes.
The event you're having Sunday, September 29th in Washington, D.C. JoinTheResistance.org is the website. I mean, the lineup is getting wild, and it changes every day that I look at the website. So, like the big names, right, are Bret Weinstein, Russell Brand, Tulsi Gabbard, Matt Taibbi. I've heard both Bret and you say that RFK has been invited. I've heard you say that you're trying to get Trump potentially even to come. Yeah. So talk about the event and, what's the goal, and just give us all the details. Yeah.
So Bret and Matt Toon and I, the three of us, and Matt Toon is the guy behind the Defeat the Mandates rally series. There was, like a 40,000 person event in Washington, D.C. and like 25 to 30,000 people in L.A. right before the mandates were overturned. We got together and started talking after a couple of events. Matt attended Rage Against the War Machine. He really liked it. And we sort of thought, what would it look like if we combined, married our events? And, we worked with Bret on it too, to really help us kind of distill our message. Like, what is it that we're trying to do? We're very anti-war, anti-mandate. We're pro-medical freedom. We're pro-free speech. We want peaceful foreign policy. And Bret really helped us distill that to like, we're sort of like rescuing the West and the Republic in the United States. And there have been some questions like, what do we say when we mean the West, and the way that Bret's described it is that it's more than just like a geographical thing. It's like the ideas, maybe the ideas that came out of the Enlightenment, the things that make what does Donald Trump mean when he wants to make America great again? Like it's this nebulous thing. But I think that it's an agreement that we have in the Western world, and specifically the United States, to distribute opportunity as widely as possible, roughly speaking. Equal opportunity, not equal outcome. And we feel like the foundation of those things are under attack. And, this moment in time demands radical change, and it requires classical liberals, conservatives, libertarians, and independents to unify to rescue the Western world before it just completely collapses under the threat of whatever you want to call it, Marxism, totalitarianism, the bureaucratic state. We think of it as like sort of this like broader umbrella of industrial complexes that are dismantling our freedoms right now.
Yeah, and help our audience understand. And I think most of them would understand this, but the pragmatic approach, like I saw, like Charlie Kirk really trying to get you to say, well, doesn't that mean you should vote for this guy, right? And both you and Bret had great answers for that, because yes, Kamala is the current representative of one of the problems, but she's not the problem or even the biggest part of the problem necessarily, right? Like,
right. She's the figurehead, the latest manifestation of this problem. But it's so much deeper than Kamala Harris or whoever you prop up. And like the superficial argument would be, oh, vote for Donald Trump, vote for whoever is opposed to Team Blue, as we're calling it. But from like a libertarian perspective, I can't like literally come out and say endorse Donald Trump, but I can say do the things that are going to make his administration stronger, more liberty oriented, and better equipped to defend the West. That's really where I'm coming. That's my approach, is we want to tighten every single bit of this up. I don't want to play spoiler in the election. I want to play fixer.
Right. And that's where I would hope everybody could agree. You definitely could not accomplish this with Kamala's team.
No, it's interesting because Trump has been sort of assembling this like Avengers team,
right?
Which is amazing. Like I'm super excited to be a part of this pushback against Team Blue, but Kamala, what's their answer to that is to drag Tim Walz into interviews with her. They don't really understand what it means to unify on this level because I think they're such rabid ideologues.
Yeah, and really Trump himself is kind of a pushback on Team Red originally in the first place.
He is a rebuke, I think, against the establishment GOP. And some of them, they've decided to come along for the ride. Some of them, are, just total anchors around his neck. But I think he's doing as best as he can. I think that he has learned a thing or two about dealing with the Washington deep state. He's talked about it a little bit. I don't think he's perfect by any means. We're not going to get 100% of what we want, but I think the desire is there to make a change, and that's a really good starting point.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, so how do you sound the alarm to the right threat level that we need this event you have in September 29th without sounding like a total kook? Like, why need it right now? Why vote against the blue team?
Well, let me think about that. We have 8 pillars to our movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they're all very necessary and timely. Their war is always the last resort. Sanctify/recodify informed consent. Banish state information control, surveillance, and propaganda. Enact a rational border policy. End lawfare and abuse of the judicial system. Secure monetary freedom. Restore family sovereignty. And return to truth-seeking and open dialogue. These are all things that we have seen rapidly eroded and under attack over the last 4 years or so. And, one of our concerns is that under a Kamala Harris administration, these things are going to further erode. And it's sort of a now or never time to push back against it. You have Donald Trump and the team of people that he's assembling who are sort of willing to be our standard bearers on this. So we want to tighten it up. We want to respectfully hold them to their commitments and agreements. We want to give all of this a signal boost and get people who are on the dissident left, who are libertarians, who are conservatives and independents, everybody to look at these values and say, you know what, like these are things that we agree on. It doesn't matter if we're a red team, gold team, independent, former Democrats, politically homeless. We all think that war should be the last resort. We don't want American empire spreading overseas to prop up the military industrial complex. We don't like lawfare. Doesn't matter if you don't like Donald Trump as a president. You don't want to see the judicial system weaponized against political opponents. And you don't like things like the Patriot Act. There are a lot of Republicans. There are a lot of Democrats who don't like the Patriot Act. We want to see things like that repealed and at least get people speaking out against them and start chiseling away, at the way that government has just completely taken away our right to privacy.
Yeah, I think I've been surprised by the backlash about like Nicole Shanahan when she started talking about RFK,
Yep.
talking about Trump, but then if you watch the whole video about that podcast she was on, it's like, listen to her. She tells you exactly why they're thinking about that to talk about Trump, because she was a Democrat, last year and giving them money. And then she started the independent party with RFK, and then boom, she's all of a sudden talking about potentially helping Trump out here. Like there's reasons for that, right?
Yes.
And it's moving faster and faster than ever. Everything you just talked about is representing how this could be solutions for that potentially, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you got to respect that everybody is on their political journey at a different point. And so sometimes you see someone who, like just recently I've had people tell me like, oh, wow, I didn't realize how nasty the media was about Donald Trump. Like he's actually a really nice person. I'm thinking, oh man, like you agree with me that corporate media is dishonest and attacks other people, but it's interesting to see you like wake up to it this late in the game. But you just got to respect the process. Not everybody's seeing it at the same time. It takes a little time for things to unfold. Border policy is one I think that people are starting to wake up and freak out over. From a libertarian perspective, we really don't like government telling people that they can't cross borders. We want peaceful people to go everywhere. I like to think about like what has happened overseas, maybe with our foreign policy, with regime change that destabilizes countries to the point that we have giant migrant hordes kicking down our southern border. There's got to be some way to look at this critically, no matter what your political background is, and say, something seems off. How do we fix it? How do we have the best possible outcome for as many people as possible? How do we respect individual rights and preserve the things that make, the United States a place that people want to come to?
Yeah, true common ground.
Yes.
And that's literally all it should be about.
Yes. I mean, like from my perspective, I don't want a totalitarian closed border state. I'm also mindful of what happens to a country when you fill it very rapidly full of people that cross a border illegally. The welfare state, growing and expanding, the rates of homelessness. There are so many things that have been happening over the last four years or so that I think are not healthy for our country. And it's also not compassionate, for the people who we claim that we're being compassionate to. Same with mandates, do it, take the shot. It's for the greater good. Stay home, stay safe, stay home. As things unfolded, I think that most everybody learned that it wasn't actually benefiting the quote unquote greater good, and it was doing a lot of harm.
No, I agree. Yeah. And I'm glad you're working on this nationally. Like, I believe in working on it nationally and locally. Like, I asked
Yeah.
Seth Cohen last year, like, shouldn't we, why not help this nationally? He's like, well, he believes in doing it locally right now. I'm like, that's good. But I think we should do it both, right? Nationally and locally.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that local, like local involvement is the place to go to get to earn your chops, right?
Yeah.
And you can control a whole lot at home. It's much easier. If you run for Congress, you're one of 435 people. If you run for city council, you could be one of 5, one of 12. You can have a tremendous impact at home. Lobbying for issues at home, changing zoning laws, lowering the tax rate, just having better control, combating things like road diets, speed traps, things that drive up costs and infringe on your liberties and don't actually keep people safe. It's much easier to fight that at home.
Absolutely. For this event and for what you're working on there. So, like, if you're talking to the blue team, and they're saying, well, Trump is the biggest existential threat, and you're just going to support Trump, like, what would you say to a member of the blue team if they're seeing you right now?
I think it's important to understand, why is that? What do you view about Donald Trump or his administration, or just like what he represents as the biggest threat? I hear a lot of things like threat to democracy, but I don't really know what that means. Um, Maybe they worry that he would try to engage in like a third presidential term illegally. I just try to ask, like what's your basis for that? Because I haven't seen it manifest. I would ask, why do you think that a Kamala Harris administration is something that's good for everyone? Considering how polarized everything is, like I'd like to see if it's going to be Team Blue, are they going to bring people on who have formerly disagreed with them and try to do something that's unifying? Because I think that's what we need right now too. We need a little bit of healing in this country, and I don't see a path forward yet
Yeah,
for that with Team Blue.
that's true. And maybe we should worry about right now and not necessarily the future. But, like, one other question I thought about is, so if the threat is existential, it's bigger than Kamala Harris, and it's only represented by Kamala Harris right now, and it's some sort of virus or infection like rabies or like the comic book Venom, and we
Mm-hmm.
do beat it down this year, like maybe everything works, right? So what is to stop it from infecting the red team, say, over the next 20 years again?
I don't think that people should support red team over the next 20 years. I think that you need to look carefully at policies and individuals. Obviously, as chair of the National Libertarian Party, I would love to see all of the liberty-minded people, the dissidents, the independents gravitate towards our party and join us. But more so than political parties, like you need to look at what individual people are espousing, what they stand for, what their goals are. Red team brought you war on terror in the early 2000s. I think that was a bad move. So, you know, I definitely don't support undying, unbridled loyalty to red team.
Yeah, and so let me repeat that. It was jointheresistance.org, Sunday, September 29th, 12 p.m. We'll talk about the event before that day in a second. How can people support that event on the 29th? Jointheresistance.org. Go to that and see what, like I said, it changes every time I look at the website.
Well, show up. We need bodies there. We're anticipating about 100,000 people, but obviously the more the merrier. It's going to be an incredible event. We've permitted off the entire Washington Monument area. So it's going to be very close to the Washington Monument, the World War II Memorial, which I also think is like a really significant thing.
Hmm.
We need people to show up. Certainly, we need financial support. This is a very costly event to hold, but we think it's really important. So we're willing to do it. So you can also donate at jointheresistance.org. I think we've got a give butter that people can donate through directly.
Yeah, maybe we could at least agree, everyone, that you're next to the World War II memorial. We don't
Yeah,
want to end up with a World War III memorial, which we wouldn't
right.
even have, like it wouldn't exist. But yeah. So then the day before, on the 28th, you have the Rage Against the War Machine event.
Yes.
So
Yes.
give us some information about that.
Sure. So I'm super excited. This is the second Rage Against the War Machine event that we've done. The first one we did in 2023 in February, and we had Tulsi Gabbard, Ron Paul, Dennis Kucinich, a bunch of heavy hitters there, Jimmy Dore. It was really a left-right unity event. And it was so incredibly gratifying to come together with people on, different sides of the political aisle to say that, like, we reject the war machine. We don't support the military industrial complex. We reject United States involvement in the war in Ukraine. I like to say there's no economic theory in nuclear winter. You got it. Like this, if there's any unifying issue, it should be opposition to nuclear war and world war. And so we're doing it again. We want to send a really strong message to Washington, D.C. before the elections. Like, if you're running for office, you need to support Rage Against the War Machine. You need to be able to publicly say, like, not one more penny towards war with Ukraine or United States involvement in the Palestine conflict as well. Like, peaceful foreign policy is what we are all about.
Again, I'm not sure who would see that and not say, well, that makes no sense for these reasons besides the people that are making money off of it. But
exactly.
I'm glad you're working on it. Did you think you'd be doing all this when you were growing up? I saw what you talked about growing up a little bit about, seeing other nations and things like that. But really, what did you think you would grow up to be? Was it this kind of thing?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not literally this, but I did think that I would be involved in politics and law to a certain extent.
Wow. Okay. Well, how was that match, how you thought about it growing up versus where you are today? Like, did you really think you'd be where you are today?
It's a pretty cool place. It's a pretty cool place to be. I thought maybe I would be a little bit more involved in Christian apologia as well, but that surfaces every now and then. But I love what I do. It's exhausting. It's stressful at times, but I think it's really rewarding, and we need it right now.
Yeah, that's why I asked. We need it more than ever, and you're in the front lines. Like, I'm trying to think about it an example. Like, maybe U.S. election in politics is kind of like a huge sporting event.
Yeah.
Where, the red team and the people that love the red team and the blue team are sitting in, next to them, and they really can't see the other side at all very well, because they're so low in the event. And so, but you're like sitting on the field almost, like you're playing the game. But you can see far more than most people can see. Thank God. And there's people like you helping you as well. Like, is this the year of the libertarians? Like people you just mentioned, like Ron Paul, like I did not know that name before this year. And I've been doing this, for 4 years now. You would think I've heard of all the kind of the independent names and information, but I learn even more every single time I do one of these podcasts. But is this the year? Like, I've, didn't know who Dave Smith was until this year, sort of thing.
I think it's our year. It came about in sort of an unusual way, where it's our ideas are advancing even more so than our presidential candidate. It's just, can we use our position and influence to make other campaigns better, to build people up when they're moving in the right direction, and to shoot kind of indirectly up into the top, into the administration, get a cabinet position, and then pull everybody else up with us. That's my goal. It's encouraging to me to find out that you hadn't known about Ron Paul, years prior, because that shows that he's still waking people up.
Right.
And the story of the remnant is real.
Right. And Russ Holbrook and people like that. Like, I heard that mentioned a few months ago, probably Dave Smith, honestly. So you Google it and you're like, holy crap, what's going on there? And why would that person still be in jail?
Yep.
Stories like that are wild. Again, just to still hear about them new this year. And like, when does your seat, you were just reelected, right, in your seat as the
Yes.
chair? And when does
Yes.
how long is that how long is that for you?
It's May every other year, so I've got about a year and 9 months left, probably
Okay.
May of 2026.
So do you even plan out to like things like the 2028 election? Are you even thinking that far ahead? Is it more about the right here, right now sort of thing?
We just passed a 3-year strategy plan, so we didn't plan all the way to 2028, but we pushed out to 27. But our goals right now we're focused on recruiting additional candidates for local office and a handful of candidates for state level strategic runs, shoring up our financials, things like that, growing our membership. So that's what our strategic plan is focused on. When it comes to political strategy, overarching at the federal level, we've got to be very nimble. We've got to be able to move quickly, while upholding a long-term vision.
Awesome. Yeah. And I was going to ask you about the CDs behind you in your bookcase, but like we talked about before we started,
Sorry.
you're not
Yeah.
in where you usually sit with your bookcase. So I thought, were those CDs you actually have there and not just DVDs or something like that or books?
Oh yeah, that's like
Yeah.
a decades old CD collection.
Sorry, my problems with the thing here, but yeah, that's hilarious. Like I haven't seen a CD in many many years, so I was really curious to ask about that. But
Well, I
and I
mean,
heard
it's
some of your favorite bands recently as
yeah,
well.
it's like a decades old CD collection of,
Yeah,
things that I've had for a long time.
that's awesome. And you're a death metal fan, right?
Yes.
A heavy
Yes.
heavy metal fan.
I love power metal, thrash metal in particular, technical progressive death metal, British Invasion. That's my jam.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm not a heavy metal fan, but like a Metallica sort of fan. Avenged Sevenfold.
Well, early Metallica, that's one of
That's
the
true.
pillars of the thrash metal movement.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. That's when I'm I think about 4 years older than you, so I was really young when they started. So,
Me
but
too, me
yeah,
too, but
still listen to it every now and then.
it's foundational stuff.
That's all right. That's right. If I could turn the camera a little bit, you would see my drum set sitting right next to me. So that's kind of that my jam as well. So
Very
it's
nice.
funny to
I
hear about that.
I'd say that Megadeth, like as a 12-year-old girl, Megadeth was like a transformative experience, for me. Hearing
12-year-old
Megadeth on the
girl, right?
radio. Yeah, hearing Megadeth on the radio for the first time when I was 12, it was like,
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah.
intense.
Not something I would imagine or guess at all, but I don't imagine anything really anymore with individuals. I just ask them questions and find out. So, but it was fun to hear that on that other interview you did. So, again, I appreciate your time, Angela, so much. There's, no reason for you to join this small Unity Now podcast, but if we help you get people to join the resistance.org, even a couple more than you had, then I think it was worth it for sure.
Absolutely.
So again, that's jointheresistance.org, Sunday, September 29th. And then I'm sure you have a website for the Rage Against the War Machine, right?
It's rageagainstwar.com. I'm very excited to be hosting Scott Horton again, Garland Nixon, who is an incredible ally from the left, Eric Bolling, formerly of Newsmax and Fox News, is going to be our MC. We've got Keith Knight from the Libertarian Institute, Clint Russell, Josie the Redheaded Libertarian, and we're adding more speakers day by day.
Awesome. I think we'll end it there. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll see everybody next time.
Thank you for listening to the Unity Now podcast. We'll be back with another conversation that highlights the political middle ground to unite Americans and end the ideological war. To find more conversations and content like this, be sure to subscribe to Unity Now on all major podcasting platforms. If you prefer video format, you'll find our channel with full episodes and clips on YouTube and Odyssey. In the meantime, please tell 2 people you love about 2 podcasts you love and subscribe to Unity Now today. Bye.